Hello everyone, welcome to OneClass. My name is Shanjida and today I'll be going over some commonly asked math questions, both at the high school / university and college levels. If anyone needs additional schoolwork help or needs tutoring services, you guys could check the description box below. And a bit about me, I am currently a second year human biology student studying at the University of Toronto. And so without further ado, we could get started. So the first question here says solve x squared, which is equal to 12x minus 15 by completing the square. So our first question, so I'll write down the equation here first, which is x squared minus or equals to 12x minus 15 by completing the square, right? So since we need to convert this equation into a form that looks like somewhat like y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. So in this case, our our equation could be set up like this: simply ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to something, or we could just say that this equation is equal to ax squared plus bx is equal to c. Okay, so we can basically say that this equation over here resembles this template equation. Okay, so what we want to do is basically to make it look like this equation, we would have to move the 12x to the other side so that all the x terms are in one side of the equation. Okay, so therefore we would have x squared minus 12x, which is still equal to minus 15 because we didn't bring the 15 to the other side. And so this is our equation, and to complete the square, what we have to do, so I'll just say complete the square. Complete the square. Complete the square. Okay. So now what we have to do is, so if you guys recall completing the square, you take the middle term, you divide it, and then you square that number. And so what we're going to do, so our middle term here is negative 12. So we would say negative 12, divide this by 2, and you get 6, negative 6, and you would square this. And then you get 36, right? And so then what we can do is we basically put 36 in both sides of the equation, like so. So we say x squared minus 12x. So oops, so you say minus 12x plus 36 minus 36, right? You have a positive and a negative also, and this equals to negative 15. And so what we're gonna do, we're gonna move the negative 36 onto this side, and so we will have x squared minus 12x plus 36, and this equals to 36. So the negative goes to the other side, so it becomes a positive minus 15. Okay, and so now we can now further simplify the right side. So we would have x squared minus 12x plus 36 is equal to 21. Okay, and now And now what we want to do is, since we have 21 here, we can now, to make this a perfect square, another step what we have to do is move the 36 to the other side as well. And so what we have to do is now complete the square. So we can say that x squared minus 12x plus 36 resembles x minus 6 squared, and this is equal to 20. Okay, and so what we want to do next is solve for x. So that's what we're trying to do. And to do that, since we are squaring, since there's a squared, since this term is being squared, to get rid of the squared, we have to square root it, and we would do that on both sides. So we would have x minus 6 squared, and you would square root this, and you would square root the other side as well. So you have square root of 21, and this would be plus and minus. And so you would get rid of the square root, so you have x minus 6 is equal to plus minus square root of 21. And so last step would be to move the 6 to the other side. So you have x is equal to plus minus square root of 21 plus 6, right? And in this case, x could be 2. So there could be two values of x. You could have x1 as root 21 plus 6. The other one you can have this way. The other one you can have as 6 minus square root of 20. Okay, and these two answers are both acceptable. This is what they've got, and so the solution here is okay. So our next question says, how do you solve the quadratic equation by completing the square again? Okay, so what we have to do, so I'll write down the equation, which is x squared minus 6x minus 8, which equals to 0. And so what we want to do is complete the square in this case. And to do that, we divide the coefficient of the middle term by 2 and then square it. So in this case, our middle term is 6 or negative 6. And to do that, we can say, so to do that, we have to basically say, we can write this as negative 6 divided by 2, which is negative 3. You square this and you get 9, right? And so our next step would be to include 9 into our equation. 9 into our equation, or actually I forgot one step here. What you would want to do is also move the 8 to the other side of the equal sign. So I'll just write here. You would have x squared minus 6x is equal to 8. Okay, so this is your new equation, and you would take the middle term and then divide it by 2 and square it, and you get your new number. And we would include this new number into our equation. And now what we do, so then you have our new equation here. You have basically x squared minus 6x plus 9 minus is equal to 8. Okay, so remember, this part is really crucial to add to remember to add a +9 and a -9. Okay, and now what we do is we would move the -9 to the other side of the equal sign. So we would have x squared minus 6x plus 9 is equal to 8 plus. And so you guys could see that this term or this equation, this polynomial equation right here, resembles a perfect square, which is x minus 3 squared, and this is equal to 17. And so the last step, what we would want to do is solve for x. To do that, since it's being squared, we would want to square root it to cancel out the square, and we would do that on both sides of the equation, on the equal sign. So we would do x minus 3, right? We would square root this, and we would square root 17 as well. And remember that the answer, when you get the answer after square rooting, it would be plus or minus. And so since this gets cancelled out, you would basically have x minus 3 is equal to plus minus square root of 17. Then you would have x is equal, so you would basically move the -3 to the other side. So you would have plus square root of 3, square root of 17 plus. Okay. In this case, x could be, there could be two values of x. You would have x1 is equal to, you would have 3 plus square root of 17, and you would have 3 minus square root of 7. So these two are the answers for solving for x by completing the square. And so okay, so like the next question we have says, what is the completely factored form of this equation? So we have x squared, we have x squared minus 16 xy plus 64. So to solve this, let's first check if this trinomial is a perfect square. And we can do this by basically checking the square of half of the coefficient of the middle term, which is -16, is equal to the coefficient of the third term, which is 64. So to do this, let's write out a template equation, which is ax squared plus bx plus c. And we know that to complete the square, you get e over 2 squared, and we're trying to see if this is equal to our third term, which is c. And from our equation, we could say a is equal to 1, b is equal to -16, c is equal to 61. Okay, and having that in mind, we can now put these numbers into this equation and check if this equals our third term. So we would say -16 over 2 squared, which is 8 squared, -8 squared, and you have 64. And 64 does equal c. And so you can say, since this is a perfect square, so let's say since this is is a perfect square. Its are factors are x minus 8, x minus 8, so which is x minus 8 squared. And so from this, you can see that x is equal to, okay? And so this is what they got, and this is our next question. Says, how do you factor this polynomial equation? So, which is x cubed minus 2x squared minus 5x plus 6 equal to 0. Okay, so first we can basically observe that the coefficients of this polynomial equation has a sum of which equals to 0. And so since this equation is equal to 0, so this means that x equals to 1 is a root of this polynomial. So we can say that x minus 1 is a root of this polynomial. Or actually, it's supposed to be x equals to 1. So x equals to 1 is a root of this polynomial. And so we can check this by substituting or letting x equals to 1 into the equation. So let's say f of 1. So we're saying let okay. So we have f of 1 equals 1 cubed minus 2 times squared minus 5 times 1 plus 6. 6. And so you have 1 minus 2, 5 plus 6. And you would get 0. Okay, so we know that x minus 1 is a factor of this polynomial. So we can say x minus 1 is a factor of this polynomial. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to divide the given polynomial with the factor x minus 1. Okay, so we have x cubed minus 2x squared minus 5x plus 6 all over, we're dividing this by x. Okay. And when you divide this, you're dividing it by with individual terms, you would basically get x squared, right? X cubed divided by x, which is x squared. And then once you divide x, 2x squared divided by x, it's gonna be 2x, and then you would cancel out that, and you would get x, and then -1 or 6 divided by -1, you would get -6. So you would have another polynomial, which is, so you would basically have another polynomial here, and you would write this with the factored form, or with the factored. which is x minus 1, and you would basically write this together, and you would have x squared minus x minus 6. So these two are factors of this polynomial, which equal to 0. As you guys could probably see, we can further break this trinomial down, right? We can factor this. We can this factorable, and this is what we're gonna do. So we're gonna factor the trinomial now. The trinomial. Okay, and so we have x squared minus x minus 6, which equals to 0, right? And so what we can do is find a number that once you multiply it, if you multiply it, you would get -6, and if you add it, you would get basically -1. And so let's first think about the multiples of -6. There are, so side note, so multiples of factors. So we say factors of -6 are, you can say, so you would have 1, or basically 6. So 1, 2, 3, and 6, and any of them could be, so this would be negative, this would also be negative. So you would have negative, either of the either one of the two, out of these 4, either 2 could be negative, right? So I just assumed they could be -1 and -3. So this would give you -6. And so you guys probably know that yes, -1 times 6 will give you -6, but it won't give you -1 once you add it. So we can see that -3 times 2 would give you -6, and -3 plus 2 would also give you -1. So our factors that we're going to use are 2 and -3. So we can basically write this as x squared minus 3x plus 2x minus equal to 0. So we can now factor this out. So we can factor out an x, and we're left with x minus 3. We can factor out a 2 here, and we're left with x minus 3 equals to 0. So our factors here would be x minus 3 and x plus 2. So our other two factors here are x minus 3 and x plus 2. And so lastly, we can say, so we can basically say therefore the roots of this polynomial equation are x is equal to -1, 2, and 3, and the factored form. So the factored form in this case would be, so you would have x, so your equation is x cubed minus 2x squared minus 5x plus 6, and the factored form would be x minus 1 minus 1, x minus 3, and x plus 2. So this would be positive, this would be negative. And so this is the answer to the question. And this is perfect. Okay. Our next question says, how do you multiply x plus h cubed? Okay, so we write this down. Oops. We have x plus h cubed. And how would you multiply this? So we use what we call special products in getting the product in this form. So this resembles a lot like a formula called a plus b cubed. And the formula for this is a cubed plus 3a squared b plus 3ab squared plus b cubed. Okay. And so by substitution, we can say, so we say by substitution, we can say we can let a is equal to x, b is equal to h. Okay, and so we basically, so plugging this in using that formula, we have so x plus h squared or cubed, sorry, we would have, and we would have x cubed plus 3x squared times h plus 3 times x times h squared plus h cubed. And so to simplify, what we would get is we would get x cubed plus 3x squared h plus 3x h squared plus h to the power. Okay, so this is your formula, or to how to evaluate x plus h cubed. Okay, and so this is correct. Okay. Okay, so our next question says, what is the square root of 75? Okay, so square root of 75. So let's try to break number 75 down by figuring out its common multiples. And so if you break down, let's say 75 by 25, we have 25 and 3. And further break down 25 and you get 5. And so we can basically, or what we can do is basically, we can basically combine the lowest terms, so in this case 5, and 3, and we have, so let's express this under a square root, so we have square root of 75 is equal to the square root of 5 times 5, 3. Further express this by saying 5 squared times 3, and as you can see, the square and the square root will cancel. So the square would get cancelled out by the square root, so you would be left with, okay, so you would be left with 5 square root of 3. And so square root of 75 is equal to 5 square root of 3. And so this is the answer. Just correct. Our next question says, how do you solve for y in 2x plus 3y is equal to? Okay, so we have our equation, which is 2x plus 3y is equal to 3, right? So we're trying to solve for y. So to find the expression for y, we have to basically move 2x to the other side. Since we're trying to get rid of all the stuff that is attached to y and is part of the equal sign. So to move 2x to the other side, we would have to subtract it from both sides. So we have 2x, 2x, right? So you would want to subtract it on both ends. So you would have 2x. And so what you'd have, you would basically get rid of this. Oops, not on this side, but on that side. And so you would have 3y is equal to 3 minus 2x. So and now what we want to do is remove the 3 from the y. And so we would want to divide both sides with 3. So you can go over 3 here and you get y is equal to 3 minus 2x over 3. Okay. And therefore you can further simplify this. You have y is equal to 1 minus 2x over 3. Okay, and so this is how you solve for y for this from this equation. And so this is our next equation says how do you factor 4x squared minus 4x plus 1? Okay, so now to get the factors of the given expression, which is 4x squared minus 4x plus 1, we have to rewrite the first term as a square expression and the second term as a product of 2 and 2x. And so we can do this by, so what we mean by this, we're saying that we can express 4x squared as 2x squared, 2x squared, minus, and we can express 4x as 2 times 2x. So 2 times 2x, we have plus 1. Now the equation is in the form, so as you can see, this is in the form of a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. And so where a is 2x and b, so a is equal to 2x, b is equal to 1. And so we can use the perfect square formula, which states that, so this is basically saying this is equal to a minus b squared. And we can express, so we can basically express our given equation. So we can say, therefore, our equation, we could basically rewrite this as 4. So we have 4x squared minus 4x plus 1. And we can rewrite this as a minus b squared. So we can, so a minus b, so in this case will be 2x minus 1 squared. Okay, so we can write this in third form. Okay, so then our next question says solve for r in the formula c is equal to 2 pi r. Okay, so we have the equation here which says c is equal to 2 pi r. Okay, and so to find r given the formula c is equal to 2 pi r, we would want to remove everything that is attached to r to the other side. So let's start off with 2. We would want to divide this by 2. And so we would have, so this would get cancelled out. So you'll have c over 2 is equal to pi times r times r. And so to get rid of the pi, you would also have to divide this. So you would want to divide this also. So it's gonna be here. And so you basically c over 2 pi is equal to r. You can also say that r is, so we write this as r is equal to c over 2 pi. Okay. And now our next question says if x plus 3 over 3 is equal to y plus 2 over 3, well, then what is x plus 3 equal to? Okay, so basically to get x plus 3, what we want to do is we just multiply both sides by x plus 3, or multiply both sides by 3 to cancel the denominator on the left side. Okay, so we're trying to say x. So if x plus 3 over 3 is equal to y plus 2 over 2 over 2, what is x plus 3 equal to? So our first step, what we want to do is not to. Okay. So what we want to do, so we just multiply both sides by 3 to cancel the denominator on the left side. So we would have, so x plus 3. We would have x plus 3 3 over 3 times 3 is equal to y plus 2 over 2 times 3. So you simplify both sides of the equation. So we would get this. So you would have x plus 3 is equal to, so you would multiply 3 out. You would have 3y. So you multiply the 3 within the numerator and the denominator. Or sorry, only the numerator, because you have an imaginary 1 in the denominator. So you have 3y plus 6 over 2. And so therefore, this is your answer. So x plus 3 is equal to 3y plus 6 over 2. So we use the distributive property of multiplication over addition, and you have, so this is correct. Next question. We have, how do you condense 3 ln 3 plus ln of 9? Question says condense condense 3 ln of 3 plus ln of 9. So if you guys remember what ln is a natural logarithm logarithmic with base e. Okay, and so to solve this, we can use the properties of natural logarithmic functions, where we state that. So properties of ln function. Properties of functions. And so one of them, which states that it's called the product rule. And this is basically ln of A plus ln of B is equal to ln A times A. And so the next rule that we have is called power rule. And this states that, so for example, you have B ln of A. This is equal to ln A to the power of B. And so now simplifying what we have got, we can use these properties to evaluate this, and we have, so our equation here is 3 ln 3 plus ln of 9. This, so for the first case, we would use power rule. So this is for power rule. So we would have, our answer over here would be ln 3 to the power of 3. And we still have plus ln of 9. Okay, and we would further simplify this. So since this looks like ln A plus ln B, the product rule, we can now say that ln 3 to the power 3 times 9. So ln 3 to the power of 3 is 9. It's not 9, it's 27. So you have 27 times 9. And so you have ln of 243. And so basically your answer is 3 ln 3 plus ln 9 is equal to ln of 243. And this is what they've got. So this is correct. Okay, and so basically, that was the end of my session. If you like this Q&A, please give it a like and share this video, and please subscribe to the OneClass channel. And if anyone needs an additional or has any additional questions or wants one-on-one tutoring services, you guys could check the description box below and follow the links to ask your questions. Other than that, I'm Shanjida, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye bye.